Every year, this time of the month of November, we get readings that over the centuries have caused a lot of people a lot of distress. It's no wonder as we hear the apocalyptic language that is reflected to us in our first reading from Daniel, in the words of Jesus in our gospel. And so many centuries of people have wrung their hands and tried to make sense of what it is that we are dealing with when we are told that it will be a time unsurpassed in distress, or we are told that the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and stars will be falling from the sky. It's no wonder that people have questioned and worried and experienced a great deal of fear. Now, it's important that we recognize in our scriptures that God does warn us. There are parts of the Bible that are intended to shake us up. But those who find themselves worrying about these passages, they often seem to stop reading a little bit too soon, to highlight the distress that is recorded, and not to notice that it also says, the wise shall shine brightly. Those who lead many to justice shall be like the stars forever. Or Jesus himself, after extending this warning, saying, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. So we have, on the one hand, the intention of Jesus to tell us that the life of faith matters, that we will be held accountable. But then at the same time telling us the path forward is to follow me, to cling to what I provide for you, so that the days of distress will not affect you who approach those days in faith. Too often, when people find themselves distressed about these kinds of readings, they are spending too much time trying to iron out the details, to say, well, what exactly is going to happen? Does he mean it literally that the sun will fall from the sky? And the more attention that we give to trying to make sense of details that are beyond our understanding, the more we will miss that voice of Jesus that calls us to wisdom. So whenever we hear readings like this, our first response should always be to say, Jesus is telling me, be ready. Be ready. This is the simple message. The Lord is coming back. This world will pass away. The Lord will return in judgment. But that judgment includes eternal life for his beloved. It is a time in our prayer in the church that we long for, that we anticipate, that we cry out for, saying, Lord, come. And so the anticipation of his coming should not cause us distress, but rather it should say, this is the fulfillment. This is what we were made for. So this is a good reflection for us to have today, because today, as we mark this occasion with the installation of your pastor, it is a good time to reflect on, well, why do we have a parish in the first place? What does it mean to be a parish, to be a part of a community of faith, to live out the responsibility of being Christian here, in this time, in this part of God's kingdom? The answer to the question, what does it mean, is the answer I've already given. It means be ready. It means recognize that the Lord has sent us into this world, that he is coming for us. He will come in judgment, but he lays out for us the entire path that makes us ready for that judgment. Not that we will be perfect, but that he calls us to rely on his grace, to lay our lives in the midst of his mercy. And so if we are prepared, well, then it can guide how we go about our day-to-day lives. We could fall short by ignoring the fact that he is coming back. We could also fall short by just presuming, well, it doesn't really matter what I do. He intends it as a warning so that we will live the kind of life that makes us ready. And so the parish, it provides us with all of the tools that will make us ready. So a simple way for us to look at what does it mean to live as a Catholic, as a member of a parish, is to hear the words of Jesus. Remember, he says, "My word will not pass away." And one of the ways for us to kind of frame our lives as Catholics is to hear his word that says, by the way, here's the 2 commandments you have to follow. Love God with your whole being and love your neighbor as yourself. All of the rest fits into these 2. So this is what he tells us. The Lord who will come in judgment is not intending to play games with us. We don't know the hour of his coming, but we do know what he expects when he comes. Love God, love your neighbor. The parish provides us with this opportunity. So if we think about loving God, certainly there are actions of our lives, there is a state of our hearts that reflects the love for God. We should love God in the actions of our lives. But I think we miss the mark a lot of times when we think about how to love God better. We miss the mark because we have a tendency to think that loving God better means I need to do more than I'm doing now. But in fact, the way to love God better is to let God do the work. The way to love God better is to receive with a more open heart. Because we can never do anything that matches the work of God in our lives. We are here today, and we will do the work of our worship. We've already sung. We've already called on the mercy of God. We join our voices in prayer for the world around us. All of this is good as part of our worship. But what the Lord does today is come and make himself present to us. And not only to be here among us, but to offer his life for our salvation. The work of Jesus on the cross and his rising from the dead, this is what he does here now. And what he asks of us to love him better is to receive it more intentionally. To allow the gift that he offers to us to penetrate our hearts so that our love for God is allowing him to mold and shape who we are. Our experience of coming here to express our love for God should be an experience that changes us in some way. Because we allow God to actually do the work of making us into his beloved children. Shaping our lives because he who created us loves us enough to die for us. He who created us to live forever rises from the dead so that we might live forever. This is the work of God. And the parish offers us the unique opportunity to come and gather as a people of faith, to unite our lives with each other and with Christ so that we can be changed. And once the Lord has acted in our lives in this way, well, then we have something to offer to our neighbors. The command of Jesus to love our neighbor as ourselves is not a command that we can fulfill alone. It is a command that requires the grace of God to work through us. Because if we do not offer to those around us from what we have received, well, then all they get is us. And they need more than us. They need the love and mercy of God working through us. They need the grace of God flowing from us. This is what will transform our world, our society, our community, the grace of God at work in us. As Catholics, we recognize that there is this movement that should mark our lives. We move into the church to be strengthened by the grace of God, and we move out so that we can be the missionaries that God desires for us. And so what it means to be a parish is to be the hands and feet of God in a particular place, in this part of God's kingdom. When we think about the practical reality of the church spread around the world, there are details that allow us to practically manage what it means to be a global church. And so when we talk about the parish in that practical sense, a parish has boundaries. And those boundaries are meant to represent the responsibility that you have as a parish. So it should be clear in your minds that the boundaries of your parish are not the boundaries of this campus. Your parish exists where you exist, where you live, where you go about your life at home and in your community and at your work and among your friends. The parish is wherever you are, because you, as parishioners, are living in this movement of receiving grace and carrying it to the world outside of this campus. And so the days of the end of our liturgical season, they should be a reminder to us that this matters, that the Lord does intend to hold us accountable. And those who are not ready, well, they will face the great distress that the Scriptures talk about. But to those who are ready, we anticipate the Lord's coming with great hope, because we understand that we are made for more. We are made for the life of God in heaven. We are made for an eternal relationship with Him. And so our time on earth and our time in this parish, they provide us a taste of what it is that God desires for us. And so my hope as we mark this occasion is that we will stand ready, that we will turn our hearts and minds more intentionally to the kind of cooperation with God that lets this parish thrive, that allows this parish and all of you in the places you live to truly be the disciples of Jesus that bring His light to the world. And so these readings are given to us as a reminder of what we hope for. And as we stand ready, we can be sure of the God who comes to us, because He comes offering grace and mercy, so that through us, the whole world may know that same grace and mercy.